Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back in. Welcome back in. Ooh, well, so today we've got something a bit different today. So we're still going to be here for any Q&As, anything that people want to be running through. But today we're going to be running through a system called Matomo today and talk about some analytic options and I guess what people should be looking out for from analytics perspective, what tools are in use, and we're probably going to discuss very briefly about why we've decided to start looking at alternatives to the norm, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, so first, let's get all started. So I am Michael Padden. I'm the developer over at E2 Studios, and I help support our clients that basically look at kind of custom solutions and ideas that may not be generally seen or they're not sure is possible, or they just want some support doing something that they are unsure how to do. And then we have Eilidh. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Eilidh. I'm the graphic designer and social media manager at E3 Studios. That means I look after your brand, I look after graphics, I create content, and I design websites. This means that I make sure that everything looks good, it's on point, and then I pass it over to the guys to make that a reality and live functioning model. So I think before we jump into Matomo and analytics, I think we must first answer the very basic question of what is analytics?
Yeah, makes sense. When people are visiting websites, your website or anyone else's, there is generally a lot of analytics going in the background to, I guess, kind of understand your users, what they're up to, where they're visiting on the site, what is, I guess, the best places to visit, what's they're not visiting, where they're coming from, how do they even find your website, all these things, and they can basically help support you make decisions about what you want to do to change something for your website or if something is working or not. Um, so that's basically really what analytics are. There is a few different variations. Whether we look at something like Google Analytics, which is probably the largest usage of analytic tool out there, or we can look at something like Matomo, which we're going to be running through today. And then there is other versions of similar systems out there on there, whether they are a paid service or whether they are a free service or I guess a service that's readily available for anyone. There's a few in there, so things like Plausible, Fathom, Panel Bear. There's a chunk of these different analytical tools, and they all have different properties, or even things like Hotjar, which is a lot more from a heat map perspective and an interaction in UX area.
And I would say a lot of it is find what you're most comfortable with using and what you find easiest to use, what you understand, and how you prefer for things to be displayed to you. Some people really like numbers. Personally, I'm a very visual person, so I like the graphs and all of that kind of stuff. It really helps me understand it. So even though we're looking at Matomo, and we quite like it, it might not be the best solution for you, but it'll at least give you an idea of some of the features and some of the key points that you should be looking at.
Oh yeah, definitely. So we're going to be running through one that we've started to be using called Matomo today, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how it works, what it does, and a little bit about why we've started using it. So I am going to put my screen on share first. Let's have a quick look at this one. Here we go. I've pressed it. We'll see when it loads.
So analytics as well, it's not just looking at the traffic that comes to your website. What it is, it can also tell you the devices that people are on, where they've come from. So if they've come from like social media, if they've come from specific blog search, it can give you an idea of where these people have come from. And that can give you a better idea on how you can actually structure your website, structure your content. On top of that, if you see that, say, more people are coming onto your mobile site than they are your desktop, then you know that you need to have that mobile working flawlessly. Analytics is a really great tool. It does take some time to understand it. So don't think that, you know, this whistle-stop tour is going to give you everything you need to know, because there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of setup, and it can take a lot of time to get the right stats that you need.
Mine seems to not be sharing today, which is always a good good start.
Always a good start.
Yeah, my page says not responding now, so we'll see if that one picks up in a second. So I'll first talk about what we've started doing internally and why we've started to look at, I guess, swaying away from some of the bigger tools like Google Analytics. Now, as we kind of mentioned before, Google Analytics is definitely the largest analytical tool that is being used right now. It has a whole host of features for the way it runs and operates. It allows things like tracking, and it also, I guess, feeds the engine that is Google to understand more about websites, more about search terms and keywords, and also about, I guess, just some of the user interactions and elements. But it also even adds on top of that their advertising strategies and how that all operates and works. This is annoying me now. Why is this not sharing?
It was working when we tested it.
I feel I may have to log out because it's just not responding at all.
Well, you go away and I'll entertain the people.
Let me return momentarily.
Anyway, guys, while Mike sorts that out, so I will talk a little bit about analytics. So you do have analytics on your website. You do have it on your social channels as well. Now, I previously done a very quick video about data and insights and how you can use that. And you will find that on our YouTube, which you're free to search on. We've also got a bunch of other content there that might be helpful to you. So analytics-wise, how I use analytics in terms of design is, you know, if you're selling a luxurious item and you want to sell that item cheaply and make it more affordable, then Alec is back. And then, you know, you've got a luxury item, you want to make it more affordable, you want to make it kind of cheaper, but you don't want to take away that feel of that being luxury just because it's cheaper. Cadbury's is a great example of that because Cadbury's is affordable, but it was originally a luxury item. And even when you buy a Cadbury's bar, you still have that nice luxury feel. Anyway, back to analytics with Mike.
Yeah, so, okay, I have now got my screen on the old share, which is always brilliant. So today we're going to be running through this software today called Matomo. I've gone on the site first just to give you guys a little bit of a brief, I guess, view of what Matomo is on their website. So we've got a little bit here. So as you can see here is Google Analytics Alternative. I probably wouldn't call it an alternative. I think it's actually got quite a lot of features that Google Analytics doesn't have as well. We've got two versions of this. So we've got Matomo Cloud and we've got on-premise. Now, cloud basically means they host all of it. And they host the data and run the servers. On-premise means that you take the data and you can host it on your own servers. Now, we've decided to move down more of an on-premise route because we wanted to really make sure that we were holding on to the data. So one of the main reasons we've moved away from utilizing something like Google Analytics is because we don't really feel it's right to start giving all the data to these large corporations and they can do what they want with the data. Additionally, on top of that, there is a fair chunk of legislation that's going through in different European countries at the moment within the EU regarding privacy and I guess opting into some of that. And that really falls heavily into the whole GDPR element of websites. Now, Google Analytics, the way it works is you'll put the analytic code on your site and it'll start tracking usage and everything else that goes on there. That'll take all that data, give it over to Google, and then it'll give you guys analytics. But it tracks things that, by default, it tracks things that you shouldn't have without a user opting in explicitly. So this isn't saying that, you know, you're using our site, you accept our cookies. This is more like, will you accept our cookies or you can't use the site, or at least we can't track your analytics. So that's really important. Now, we've started to look at Matomo because it doesn't track things that are, I guess, well, it can, but you can turn off the settings where it doesn't track things that are sensitive in nature. That shouldn't be allowed to be tracked. Now, what we've basically got is, here's a little bit of a picture of what Matomo looks like. All about reputation, which is really the key reason we've gone for it. It is open source, so when you get the on-premise version, you can see all the code. You can make your own adjustments. If you are a web developer, it's really helpful to make some adjustments to it and the way it runs. And I will run through a little bit on the resources. Pricing, we'll just have a quick glance at. So we've got a few variations, and it's all about traffic and whatnot. So if you want the cloud version, which is hosted by them, it starts at £17 per month. And then on-premise, I guess it's $0 by default. You would then have to pay for your own server fees and maintenance and all that stuff. But it's on you where you want to put the data. We have features. Features is the cool part.
It's the fun part.
Yeah. So we've got visitors is our core feature. We're going to run through that shortly. We've got behavior, how people are using the site. Acquisition. So if you're doing things like sales or anything like that, you can also see where people are coming from to get to your website. Attributions, similar to that, really about the conversions of where people are coming from. You got e-commerce. This is something that's linked directly to things like WooCommerce payments. You can set goals, so you can see how you're doing. Funnels, cohorts. You can even create your own custom reports. There's a tag manager system, very similar to Google Tag Manager, but I would say much easier. You can import from Google Analytics if you don't want to lose that data. There's Heatmaps, session recordings, SEO keywords, so how people are finding you through keywords. There's analytics based on the form inputs that people are using, A and B testing, analytics on media, ad performance. So you can basically make it a white label solution. You can do some role reporting, and then finally there is API integrations if you need to do something a little bit different.
So what would you say the APIs are, just for anyone who doesn't know?
So APIs, basically it's an endpoint where you can either push or pull data depending on what that API is for. It's really a conversation between two systems to pass information back and forth. They have to be explicitly programmed on each side to handle the call. And there will also, usually if the API is done well, they'll also handle any errors that are passed back to it as well, so it knows what to send back to a user if anything pops up. But really, it's really just a conversational point between two systems. So in this circumstance, you could create an API where on your own website, you might want to pull explicit data and maybe make your own graph or make your own kind of custom reports outside of the Matomo system. So today, or now, we're going to run through the Matomo system. Now, we've utilizing our own website as a bit of an example of how it works. So we've only been running this now for a few weeks, but it's given us a good inclination of how usage is being done on our site, and then start to make decisions about what we want to do with our system. If anyone does have any questions as we go through, please do feel free to shout out what you want to go through, whether it's about analytics or something else. I don't mind too much, and then we can see what we can help with. And really, this time is for everyone else. If they need to ask any questions, then please do.
Yeah, if you've got any problems that you're not sure and you need an answer for, maybe Google's confusing you, just pop them in the comments and we'll answer them as best as we can.
Exactly, yeah. So we're going to run through, first of all, we're going to run through our dashboard. So dashboard is really just a place where we can get some key information. So we can see here where we've got our highest usage of our site. So seemingly not a lot of activity on Saturdays, most of it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it gives us a baseline of where people are utilizing our site and on what days. What we've also got as well is you can go to the little one here, which is a little report feature, and you can change the way the data is displayed. So we might say, actually, I want just a pie chart, and that'll break it down into a pie chart view. Or you can just take it as a photo snap to use elsewhere if you're doing reports or whatever else. And you can even go to, I guess, anything else, whether you want it to be a one with kind of viewer metrics, so it gives you more analytics based on it. You can do that as well. So we can see here, Tuesday gives us the most visits. However, Thursday doesn't, but we get more interactions, and the same with Friday, and we get more actions on the page, how long they're average on the page for, and the bounce rates and conversions from that. We can also see visits over time. We can see a map of where people are visiting from. So whether people are visiting from China, whether people are visiting from Spain, United States, etc. And it gives us more information about where those visits are coming from and who's utilizing our website. We can also see on the bottom right-hand side, channel types. So we can see here, we get 17 visits that came from 10 from Facebook, 7 from LinkedIn. We can see other websites that are linking to us. So they're sending people to us and they're coming from them. And we can also see search engines and then what keywords were searched for to find us. And then we can see here 191 came direct to our site without going through any of the other channels. We can see traction on changes. Now, this one doesn't give us too much information at this stage because we're pretty new to utilizing the system, but it'll compare data to, for instance, last month, and it'll tell us actually what's going well, what's not going well on our site, and where are people visiting. We can also see device types, so desktops, smartphones, and again, we can change the display of this one like that. And what we can also see... Well,
is there a little car feature in there?
A car?
Yeah,
yeah,
car
browser. Yeah. We haven't had anyone use it yet.
Oh, well, we'll keep an eye on that.
Further down, we've got pages. So these are the most pages that are being viewed on our site. So the home page, which is generally the same on any other site, the services, the contacts, the blogs, and these are the pages where people are basically going to. Now, I'll go through a little bit more in some of these key features, but what we can see we'll go for the open transitions. This gives us a view of where people are coming from to look at our site. So we can see here from an internal pages perspective, most people come from the services page back to the home page, the contact page, about page, etc. We can see how many came from the homepage directly from search engines, from social media, from the website, from different websites, and how many people came direct. So 112 went direct. What we can also see from here is, well, you see here how many people refresh the page, so 31 reloads. We can also see on the right-hand side how many people then went from the home page to a different page on our site. So, well, good part for us for the metric. 26% went straight from the home page straight to the contact page, which is always good. Then they went to the about, services, etc. Or they've downloaded something like a PDF, or they've gone externally from our site, so to a different website from ours. And then how many people just close the website.
Yeah.
What we can also see is if we click on one of these, we'll then go to pretty much the exact same view, but purely for the about page. So how did people get to the about page, and where did people go from the about page? So they've gone to our team pages, or they've gone to the home page, or they've gone to contact, or whatever else. So this gives us a good little view of working out how people are utilizing the site and where they're moving and where they're going with it.
And how does that help in like your site build if you know where all these people are going?
So that's a good question. So how it really helps with the site build is it gives us an indication of, are people going where we, I guess, want them to go to an extent. So if we built something on the home page with a real call to action banner and people weren't using it, then maybe it's not working, and we need to rethink how it's being worked. Or it could even give us indications that they're going to pages that we didn't think that they would. Now, what we've started to see a lot more recently of a lot of this stuff is, particularly within these transitions, for a lot of our clients, the biggest pages people are going to now are the about pages. People want to find more about the business, more about the people working there, compared to just going straight to the services of what people offer. So that's been quite interesting.
Yeah, and that lines up with the things that we've been saying about social media, about people being nosy and wanting to know who they're working with. People are less inclined to work with a cloak and daggers kind of company now. They want to know who's actually behind the brand.
Yeah, exactly.
So that there's data there showing you exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. And that's it. That's where people are really going to now, is more about people and the business, and find out, do their ideals align with my ideals, and is it people that I feel I can trust to go through? Because there are so many websites out there, and it is very hard to work out whether it's a genuine business or not really. We can also see more information in real time. So we can see how people are coming up to the site, where people are visiting. So in this one, for instance, which was an hour ago, if we click on profile, this tells us the country that they came from. It tells us that they spent 54 minutes on the website. They visited 6 pages. They originally came direct, so they went straight to e2estudios.com rather than going through a search engine. It shows us as well here that they started on the homepage. They went to the about page. They went to the website development page. They refreshed the homepage on the website development page as well, and then they went back to the homepage before they finished off.
Yep.
So this gives us a good view about how people are utilizing the site and how people are working.
Yeah, I see. It also gives you location, but I suppose we should say if they're using like a VPN, it's not always accurate.
Yeah. So it is. It does work out where I guess it tries to work out where they are. Now, we don't do any recordings for things like IP addresses. There is features in the system to do that, but again, that kind of goes into that GDPR element. So we've turned that off on ours. So we don't track anything from, I guess, any unique identifier. We don't set any cookies. The real good part about using a system like this as well is, I'm sure you guys who are watching and Eilidh, when you're looking at sites as well, there is nothing more annoying than having that cookie banner keep popping up.
Yeah.
You go on
especially
a site,
when you've got it cookie banner, pop up, cookie banner, something else, and you're just like, I'm done.
Exactly. Now, the real good part about utilizing something like Matomo is it doesn't store cookies. So unless you're storing cookies for something else, actually, we don't even need a cookie banner because there is no cookies being stored for these analytics. For things like Google Analytics, it is required. So that's one of the other reasons we wanted to look at utilizing something like this as well, so we can move away from having to have more distractions and I guess issues going on to sites as well. But yeah, this gives us a bit of a baseline about how people are utilizing the site and how it's all operating. Let's go to the top. We can look at different, we're not going to go through our clients, but you can put more than one website on here. So there is more websites within this for our clients. You can also look at different date ranges, whether it's specific days, weeks, year. It is pretty much in real time in the way that the data comes through. So we get a lot of information fairly fast. We can also go over to the visitors. So we've already seen a little bit of the visitors, but we're going to go into more detail. So this is the log that we've seen beforehand. We can see the real-time and the real-time map. No one on there now. Sad times. We can see locations. So more information about locations, what continents, what browser languages that people are using. So we've got most people who are looking at the site in English, some that it doesn't know, some in German, Polish, etc. We can even see which devices are coming onto our site. Now, for us, what we see is the majority of our users come through on a desktop device or a laptop. And then there's a few through phone. It really depends on what kind of business that you're running and how you need to set those up. We do have some of our clients which the vast majority go through on a mobile device. So as you would imagine, it is really, really key to make sure that things fit on the page rather on there, and that the site is fully optimized for mobile. Yeah. Now, you should fully optimize it for mobile regardless, but this gives you more a baseline of how people are using your website.
Yeah. And I can see below that we've got things like Apple, so that means, you're also developing it for Apple and Apple's policies and all of that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can see further down here, how many people we don't know these devices, but we've got 62 over here using Apple, 15 Samsung, 12 Huawei. And then on the right-hand side, we can also see the models that they're using and the different screen resolutions. Screen resolutions are a really good one because it gives us more information about actually what does their viewport look like and how much are they seen on the website. And we're going to get to a little bit more about that later on down today as well. We've also got software. So it gives us a bit of an idea about what operating systems are in use, what browsers are in use, any configurations, browser engines, and then any plugins that they've used for our site as well.
So how would you say that knowing the different operating systems and the browsers help you as well? How does that?
Operating system's a good one because we generally, well, I guess browsers and operating systems. With operating systems, as you'd imagine, the vast majority are coming through Windows, but we do have some Linux and we do have some Mac users. Now with Mac, and I guess more so for the Safari elements, it is really key because it is a different, there's different CSS rules, there's different JavaScript arrangements for how the browsers are using things. So we need to make sure that the websites are compatible with a variant of different browsers. Now, what we don't generally do on our sites is look at, I guess, legacy browsers, so old Internet Explorers and things like that. We keep ours up to date, but it would be good to know if people are using different types of browsers and what we need to do. Now, we can see here that the vast majority go through Chrome, and then we have, after that, there's mobile Safari as well. So that's really your iPhones and your iPads. And we now need to know, really, does our site fully work on these different browsers? Now, we have another system that we utilize, which gives us information about errors that pop up on sites. So we're not going to go through that today, but it gives us a bit of an indication. Is there anything we need to look at sooner rather than later? We also have times. So what time of the day are people utilizing our website? So we have seemingly the most people are using it around 4, 5 a.m. And after that, it is more your lunchtime in terms of it. But we can see what time people are utilizing the site as well.
Yeah, and a good thing about knowing these times means that it gives you an indication of when you should put new content out as well. So say they're on mostly during lunchtime, that's when we know we need to start putting blogs out, or we need to put out a new live or a session like that.
Yeah, it could even be directly linked to what you're already knowing. So if we know that, not that we release a blog at 5 in the morning, but if we were always releasing blogs at 5 in the morning, we would know that people are going to it potentially for that reason as well.
Yeah.
But this one now really leads on to the behavior section. So we've touched on briefly about this is kind of the pages and how people are utilizing the site, but we can also see things like the unique page views, the bounce rates on them, average time on those pages, and what's the exit rate from those as well. But we can also see now the entry pages. So this is more of a general pages, just all pages. Entry pages is what is the first page that they went to on the site. So we know that the first page they went to is the home page. Some people have just gone directly to, looks like, the on-page SEO page. So they've just literally gone straight to there. They've gone to specific blogs. So this gives us an indication of where people are going for the first time on the site. After they get there, is there a bounce rate? So if we look at the services, bounce rate 100%. So we need to make sure we're looking at that and how we can mitigate those bounces.
Yeah. And for those who don't know what a bounce rate is, what would you define it as?
People leaving, basically. So if the bounce rate is high, it means people are getting to that page and then deciding not to move further into those pages. So sometimes it's a difficult one, bounce rate, because it depends on what you're offering as a service. Now, if, for instance, we sent a link saying this is some information and we were on an email saying, let me know what you think, then you don't really need them to move anywhere else. So the bounce rate is pretty much where it's at. We also have a contact form at the bottom of that services page. So they could have filled that in and they wouldn't go somewhere else. And that's where you would look at things like funnels and goal settings. So just because someone bounced doesn't mean that they were, it was a negative bounce. So I wouldn't worry too much about bounce rates. It's good to know because there might be a decision you need to make for some of them. But it's a little bit of it could be a negative, it could be a positive on where it is. You generally would expect, or hopefully, that if someone goes to the contact page, that would be a page that would bounce afterwards because they would fill it in and then say, right, I'm done with that. I've sent the contact form. I don't need to investigate further. We've also got exit pages. So this is which pages people are leaving the most. This is the last page people are on before they stop using the site. And then we go through more about page titles, site search. We haven't got a site search system in ours, but if you had one in yours where people can search for products or search for blog posts, this will show you what people are typing into that search engine to get the results. Outlinks, so where people are leaving our site from. If people are downloading any files, which ones are they downloading and how many times have they been downloaded? Any events that get triggered, you'd have to set these manually as events. Engagements. So we can see here how many returning visitors, the durations that people are there for. Do people visit once or multiple times? How many days a week do they visit? Loads of different metrics in there. Transitions we've looked at. This one gives you more information about it with the ability to do different filters. So you might want to look at in page titles rather than view, and it gives you entitled view. But there's a few different parts here. Performance gives you speed on the site. So how fast is it loading certain elements, and does something need to be changed the way it transitions and loads in? And then it shows you by different pages how long those pages take to load on average. Users flow is a really interesting one that I've started to utilize a hell of a lot more. So what you can see here is the most pages generally go to the home page, 191 people there. But what you can see is from the homepage, this isn't the exact same as the transitions. Transitions is more general about where people go. This one is from the homepage. Where does each person go? But where do they go after that? So we can see here the 191, 18 of them went from here to the contact page. From the contact page, 5 of them then went on to the who are we? So the about page. From the about page, one person then went onto the our services page. We can even press plus and go further into it until we bottom down that user flow. But you can see where people are flowing on your site. The reason you would use this is to look at actually, are they flowing the way that you thought you designed the site to flow? So have you got the right call to actions in place? Do you have the right metrics in place to track and record where people are going? So if we can see here, right, we know that people went to the home page and then they went to the services page, but did they then go to a specific service, or did they then find out more about the portfolio of what's been done on those services? If not, if that's a really key part, how can you make sure that it's clear for people to go there? Do you need to put a banner on there? Do you need to put a big call to action? Whatever else that allows you. But you can see here the flow, and does it follow the path that you are, I guess, hoping people would follow?
Yeah, and I guess this as well is part of the customer journey. Like, you want to plan this out as you're building the site. How do you want people to go through your website as well? You know, and then you want to plan that out and then change according to whatever the data gives you.
Exactly, yeah. We can also look at acquisitions, and this is things like search engines and keywords. So these are the things that people are searching for and how they found us on Google. Image keywords, so have they found any images from our site? What search engine are referring to us? Or all that fun stuff in between. Any websites that are referring to us? How many people have gone to a site and then gone to our website? Social networks.
Knowing what websites are referring to is a really good way to get rid of any spam websites, because there is a lot of people who will set up websites just for the sake of slapping a bunch of links on it, and it won't be relevant to you. And we spoke about this in SEO, how links that aren't relevant to you, that are referring you, are actually detrimental to what you're trying to achieve with it.
Yeah, we have spoken about this before about backlinks and referring domains. So it is quite a key metric for search engines like Google to see how many people are referring to you, because that generally works on more of a trust, and they feel it's more pertinent for what that user is looking for. However, if there is a lot of sites linking to you that are irrelevant in terms of what you do, or seem like they are spam sites or I guess link farms, then that has a negative impact on your site rather than a positive. So you do need to keep on top of it and see where people are coming from. Now, this isn't the only metric. This is more like how people are clicking on it. It doesn't mean that there isn't still links going to you. So you would have to look at other solutions for that. Like there's a few different backlink companies. So we use systems like Ahrefs, but there's a bunch of different ones that track those parts. These are more like just how they got to your site, but it's still something to keep on top of. We haven't really linked into campaigns. We've got a few clients that are looking at campaigns now. This gives you more indication of how people are getting to your website and are they following the right, I guess, campaign strategy. So if you were doing a leaflet distribution, you could be really clear that they specifically came there from that leaflet distribution, not and from
that's something like if they're trying to buy a product, say you've delivered a leaflet to a specific postcode and that leaflet has a code on it to get, say, 10% off. you can then see if someone's put that 10% code in and track it that way.
Yeah, and you can also see which postcodes did they come through, or if you were using it as that example. But you could also see actually which leaflets. If you did, you could do like 20 different leaflet drops, all with a slight variation of code. But then you could actually see which leaflet was the best leaflet, or which one got us the most traction in terms of it. And that's another way to do those as well. We're probably going to skip goals and funnels and forms and media. We don't have any of those set on our site. And A/B testing. We'll probably look at very briefly heat maps.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Heat maps is a really good one. So this one now gives us an indication for our site. These little dots and blobs are where people are clicking. So you can see here there's a lot of activity on contact, on services, on about, on home, without here through here as well. But you can see where they've actually gone to on the site. They've clicked on some of these socials and websites. They've gone to a few of these links down here, and they've gone to our social medias and privacy policies. So this gives us an indication of how people are utilizing the site. Now, this is for a mobile view. We can also check, actually, we don't really have anyone using it on tablets, but on a mobile, the way people are using it will be different. So we can see here, that's the menu icon. So a lot of people go straight to the menu. But there's not a lot of activity for clicking on the mobile compared to it is on the website. Now, a lot of this is generally due to the fact that on mobiles, people don't generally scroll all the way to the bottom. They generally try and go to somewhere that they can at the top. So there's
but mobiles, it's more people want that instant access to what they want.
Yeah. We've also got move, so you can see where people are moving their cursor around. And you can see where the most traction is. Now, this isn't a direct correlation because it's dependent on different users, but often it is an indication of where people are reading or where people are viewing content. So we can see there's a lot on ours with blue, but you can see where people are moving their mouse around and what's going on. But yeah, you can see it all here in terms of it. So a huge amount of interaction within our socials, some business cards, some ads, all that kind of fun stuff. And if we go to the top again, you can do that on mobile. And then the one that I find quite interesting and really highlighting for a lot of our clients is the scroll section. So on mobile, for these 334 users, we can see here 100% of the people seeing the top of our website. As you would expect, they go on the website, that's what they see. But what you can also see if we go further down is over here, where we've just got our first featured project, only 77% of our users have actually seen that part because they haven't carried on scrolling down the website. Further down here, we're past the halfway marker, only 52%, so only half of the people actually seen this part. And then right near the bottom, only 21% of the people actually got to the bottom of the website.
Yeah, and
this is where it's really important.
And I suppose this gives you a really good idea of where you should be placing your calls to actions. It should be showing you that, if you want them to do something, having it at the bottom of the page doesn't always benefit you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the bottom of the website isn't your main part to put your major call to action. The top is definitely the key part. Now, we've worked with different people in the past to look at things like their shopping site. So instead of having all the blurb of text at the top, maybe have that slightly underneath, because actually you want that buy button to be at the top, or you want the product information to be at the top, or the image to be at the top, and the descriptions further down. People generally want the eye candy first and then read afterwards. So you entice people first, and then they will be more inclined to scroll down. Try not to bore people at the top and then afterwards. Now, there's a really good example for these that we see a lot more now, which are really annoying. So if people like to cook, so if people like to look at recipes, if you go on a lot of recipe sites now, they generally have a huge amount of waffle at the top.
They give you their life story about how their grand's and sister's dog created this recipe.
Yeah, where they've got this specific carrot from and how it's gone through the generations of carrot farmers before it's hit your doorstep. But you generally have massive paragraphs of information in regards to literally everything about them and their family lineage, and the first time they ever ate a chili con carne to the last time they've had sugar in their life. But no one cares. People want to see the ingredients and they want to see the recipe. That's what people really want to see, and some pictures. So we've worked with people to kind of move those around. So that content part is really important for search engines to get all that information. But your users, if they're scrolling down the site, most likely going to say, I can't be bothered scrolling anymore. I'm going back and I'm finding another website that has the recipe accessible. So those are really key parts.
Then it's always good to think about that as well, because yes, you need the content for search engines, but if your audience isn't reading that and all they really want is just a quick instant access that all of us want now, then you need to position those call to actions, those quick instant actions, in very key points of your website.
That's it. We also see similar in Tag Manager. So within Tag Manager, we can create here tags that help support the I guess, information about how you're utilizing your site. So you can like tag certain elements with information, and it'll tell you if people are clicking on those relevant parts or they're doing something that supports that next section. And then that part kind of moves into the whole goals and funnels. So over here, we have a goal about downloading a PDF on our site. So you can see now actually how many people have clicked the PDF, what was the overall success of it, how did people get to those parts. So there's all these different parts on how it works. And then it also feeds into a funnel area as well about those users that were going to the download PDFs, what pages they got to, how they were referred there, and then did they then go through and actually download that PDF. So all these different parts make a really key focus on what tools are available to give you more knowledge about how people utilize your site and more information about how you want to make sure there is changes in place to, I guess, do different things.
Yeah. And I think we should move on to one of my favorite bits, the screen recording.
Yeah, screen recording is a cool little feature. So this one, again, very similar. So anything that's got sensitive information, whether that is text fields, input fields, anything like that, is scrubbed, so we don't see any of that stuff. It doesn't even record it. But what we can see here, so 11 page views over here. So we've seen earlier on that when we clicked on this, we can find out their I guess, flow of how they've utilized the site for this individual. We can also see their screen resolution. But what we can also see is we can hit play recording, and it records kind of an imaged version of how they've used the site. So you can see here, they're in the orange where they have scrolled and moved around the website. This is a sped up version. So this was actually over 35 seconds, not 4 seconds. Yep. So they've gone to the about page. What I was saying before, people go to the about page now more than anything else. We can then see where they've moved from there. So they've, I guess, looked at some of it, scrolled down, look at some of our beautiful headshots.
Yep.
And then they found something else to do. So this gives you a really clear way of how people are utilizing the site, even more so, and where people are going on the site and what they're looking at. So you would be lost if you wanted to look at all of the recordings, particularly if you have a heavy site, but it gives you an indication of a little bit of how someone's flow has worked and what's happened.
Yeah, and it gives you an idea as well of what exactly these people are looking for. So, for instance, if someone's looking for web development, how many interactions is it taking for them to get to web development? If they're looking for contact, how many clicks or interactions is it taking to get them to that contact form? Most people begrudge anything more than 3 clicks. Everyone wants stuff in 3 clicks. So it can give you some really good data on, right, okay, so it's taking 4 clicks to get to contact, and you can tell that it's not generating what you need it to generate. So how can I restructure that?
Yeah. I think one of the really good parts about this as well is, let alone all that really great stuff you've just been talking about, it also gives more information. If you've got a system that has, I guess, an interactive piece. So we work with some people that create like robots and automation systems. It'll also give you information about how they're utilizing those systems and are they using it the right way, or is it not clear that or how they're working. obviously I was on the site yesterday, but X didn't do Y. This gives you an area where you can actually see that in their actual viewport of how they would have seen the site.
Yeah, and it's really good, especially if you're wanting to start, like we've had this discussion about chatbots and pop-ups. It's a really good way to see if they're just instantly closing that down just to get it away, or if they're actually utilizing it.
Yeah. The last one we're going to touch on now is custom reports. So it is an analytical system, but it also allows us to create reports for it as well. So if we could name a report, I don't know, monthly review, why not? It's already there. We can set here any dimension that we want to look at. So we might say browsers. We might have, let's have a look, number of visits, etc. And you can go through and you can even filter things if you wanted to filter certain parts or date ranges or anything else. We can look at all the different metrics, and we can even preview the report and see what it would look like. So a little base report from what we've looked at. And then you can also create the report and export it out. We can also do scheduled reports, which is a cool little feature for the system. So if I pop over to email reports, so there's one there. But if I go to create one, I can say, right, I want to look at all visitors. I want this to come to my email weekly, monthly, or daily, or never. So we can leave it as weekly. We can also do a report period. So what period are we looking at? Is it just last week? We want to send it a certain hour of the day. Do we want to send it as an email? Is it going to be open by email or mobile for how it's going to format it?
Yeah.
Do they want it as PDF? Do you want it as a CSV or HTML file? So we'll go for PDF for this one. Where are we sending it to? Do you want to send it to more email addresses? Do you want graphs and reports? What kind of data are we looking for? So we're looking at visit summary. Are we looking at, let's have a look, user flow, entry pages, or whatever else you think you need in terms of the way this works. And we can create a report. Description. I'll remove that later. So that's creating our report. We can now see it here, and we can also download the report as well.
Yeah, and this is a great way in terms of, like, people ask what information should I pull from analytics? What should I be looking at? Well, in this way, this gives you control over what you want to focus on. There is key ones that you want to look at, but it all depends on your website and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I think it's really good, particularly if you are running a certain campaign. You might just want a brief email to give you a daily summary, so you don't have to manually go into the emails or into the system to check things. Actually, I just want a daily summary. I want a monthly review. How has last month gone, and is it better than the previous month? So we can see here, it's gives us a bit of a view of our visitor summary, what we ticked, and it's also give us information about the user flow, entry pages, and any referral websites within that period of time. This is just for a day. But it gives us that information at a glance, and we can see what we need to do. But you can get this, so it'll just email you automatically without having to do anything else, whether you want it as a PDF or you want it as HTML. So it'll just, I guess, prepare it in an email, so you don't have to open anything. It's just done. But yeah, that is pretty much so. Yeah, that's pretty much all of the stuff that we were going to run through for Matomo today on what's in there. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask.
Yep. And Mike has done a part 1 and part 2 in our YouTube as well, if you want to go in a little bit more detail on things.
Yeah. So I did, I guess, broken down a little bit more and a little bit more in depth of some of the stuff that we've run through today. But if anyone wants to have a look at that, please feel free to do so. And it just gives you a bit more of similar to this, but targeted to certain attributes within that report. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, huge amount of things about like security and privacy, GDPRs, what tools do you want to employ for GDPR, and all that fun stuff that we have to think about for websites now. But yeah, loads of adjustments you can make to the system to I guess make it more friendly for what you do. Now there is also a shopping part of this system which gives you more information about what sales that you've made, how many people have left the site with an abandoned cart and not finalized a purchase. Now, we don't have a shopping system within our site, so I can't really show you that, but there is some really cool features in that. If you go to the Matomo website, you can also look at their demo versions, and it will give you more information about how that works and what it looks like. So I would definitely suggest, if you're interested, do check that out and see what's
I will add to that as well, is if it goes out with the website, so say that you sell on like Etsy, all Matomo can do is actually follow you until you're off the website. So if you leave and go to Etsy to buy something, then that's all the data you're going to get, is if they've clicked on Etsy.
Yeah.
So really, it's for an inbuilt system. If you want to sell things on outside sources, you'll need to use the outside source information and pair it up with Matomo to really make sure it's matching.
Yeah, the closest you can do on this is probably set up goals and conversion goals to say they've clicked that link and they've gone to Etsy. But at least it'll give you more information about what, I guess, generally what may have happened after they've moved from somewhere, but it won't tell you if they've factually like made that purchase if they've moved somewhere else. Yeah.
Cool.
I think that's it for the old Matomo analytics. Eilidh, anything you want to run through on this one?
No, I find this system much more friendlier because, one, I'm a very visual person, so seeing the actual way someone interacts with a website is really helpful, especially when it comes to designing something and coming up with a customer journey or a flow. Whereas your data really does help you in terms of, okay, that isn't working, so we have to change it. There's so much that analytics can give a website, and I feel it is something that a lot of small businesses forget about. They just slap Google Analytics and go, that's me done. And so really, if you've got any type of analytics at all, make use of it.
Yeah, I think it's finding that time to actually, dedicate some time to run through your analytics and see how you can make, I guess, better decisions about how you can build the site or what changes you may need to look at doing. Yeah.
So I don't see us having any more questions coming in, but if anyone has any, please feel free to put them in, or you can join us next week for more wonderful stuff and ask us anything that you may need.
Yeah, we're going to carry on doing these from 11 till 12 every Thursday. And then if people want to get involved, ask any questions, please feel free to just shout out and ask anything you feel you might want to do, whether it's about your website, whether it's about social media, whether it's about X, Y, and Z, we can help support. Jonty, Thank you on YouTube. Thank you very much. Thanks for the run through. It was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
you are more than welcome. Jonty's been playing around with some of the Matomo stuff for better part of a couple of weeks now. And I think he's playing around with some of the campaigns himself. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one works and if it's and if he feels it's useful or what the next steps are for it and if he's going to use it more. I think we've definitely found that there's definitely a lot more content from an analytical perspective compared to things like Google Analytics, even though Google is the bigger dog in terms of the way it runs. We have definitely found this one a lot more useful, the way it can be customized and changed around compared to the other system. And even finding things seems to be much easier. I mean, I've got a call later on this afternoon with someone that needs support setting up goals within Google Analytics because it's been a bit of a nightmare. And I set up the same goal on this one, and I think it took maybe 4 or 5 minutes. So there's a little bit there where we can help support some businesses that need something different. But yeah.
So thank you again for joining us. If you are needing any help with websites, content creation, branding, SEO, or analytics, you know who to call. Us, ET Studios. We will be here next week at 11, so please come and join us next week. You are very much welcome to. And we hope that you all have a wonderful day.
Brilliant.
Anything you'd like to add?
All good. All good. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you again next week.
Okay. Bye all.